Take a cube of ordinary concrete about the size of a football. It weighs around 19 kilos. Now take that same cube, made from the material coming out of Chinese materials labs right now, under 2 kilos. Drop it in a bucket of water, and it floats. Same shape, same cement inside it. One of them you carry with 2 hands and a bent back, the other one a child can throw across a room. That gap is why every construction headline this year has said the same thing. Concrete is finished, something lighter is taking over. And concrete is worth finishing. It is the second most used substance on Earth after water. The world pours around 14 billion cubic meters of it every year, and that number is forecast to reach 20 billion by the middle of the century. Making the cement inside it released roughly 1.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide in 2024, about 8% of everything humanity emits. More than half of that comes out of the chemistry itself, rather than the fuel, which means you cannot fix it by plugging the kiln into a solar farm. So a light, low cement, fireproof insulating foam sounds like the answer to all of it at once. There is one problem with that story. The foam is not new. A Swedish architect patented it in 1923, and the thing it is actually replacing is not concrete. In this video, I'll show you what changed to make these impossible densities work, the one number almost nobody quotes next to them, and why Beijing is pushing this material hard right now, for a reason that has very little to do with better buildings. If that is useful to you, subscribe. Bubbles in cement are old, very old. The Romans worked out that if you mixed animal blood into mortar and stirred it hard enough, small air bubbles stayed trapped in the mix. It made the material easier to work, and it made it lighter. There is evidence the Egyptians were doing something similar 5,000 years ago. Then almost nothing happened for 18 centuries. The man who restarted it was Axel Ericsson, a Swedish architect working in the early 1920s. Ericsson had already patented a way of getting gas into a cement mixture. What he found in 1923 was worth more than the patent. His aerated mix could survive an autoclave, high-pressure steam curing. The material came out hard, fast, and with almost no shrinkage. Sweden built the first factory for it in 1929. By 1935, there were reinforced roof and floor panels selling under a brand name. Britain was making structural foamed concrete out of coal slag in the 50s. In the 1980s, contractors pumped 4,500 cubic meters of the stuff into a railway tunnel in Scotland. A full century of this. And for most of that century, it was the material you reached for when you did not care very much. Trench reinstatement. Leveling a floor. Filling the void under a road so the road stops sinking into it. Useful, unglamorous, invisible work. Nobody built a tower out of it. Nobody wanted to. There was a reason, and researchers pinned it down decades ago. When you take density out of foamed concrete, compressive strength does not fall in a straight line beside it. It falls exponentially. For most of the last 100 years, the ceiling on this material was not the chemistry, it was the bubble. Foam concrete is simple to describe. You mix a cement slurry. You generate a foam separately. You fold the foam into the slurry, pour it, and the bubbles hold their position while the cement sets around them. The bubble is not a flaw in the material. The bubble is the product. The trouble is that a bubble sitting in wet cement is in a hurry to stop being a bubble. Two things go wrong. Bubbles touch and merge into larger bubbles, and gas diffuses straight through the liquid film, from the small ones into the big ones, so the small bubbles shrink and disappear while the large ones swell. Chemists call that second one Ostwald, ripening. Either way, the result is identical. The fine, even pore structure you mixed collapses into a coarse, uneven one. Sometimes the foam simply breaks down before the cement has set at all. So the density you designed and the density you got were two different numbers, and the gap between them moved. That is fatal for a building material. An engineer can design around a weak material. No engineer can design around an inconsistent one. The fix came out of surface chemistry, and it is genuinely elegant. Take silica particles at the nanometer scale. Treat the surface so one side of the particle likes water and the other side does not. Those particles migrate on their own to the boundary between air and liquid, and they park there. Once a particle is wedged into that interface, The energy needed to pull it back out is enormous. In practice, it cannot leave. Coat the skin of every bubble with them, add a thickener to slow the liquid draining out of the films, and the foam stops behaving like foam. It holds. That is the entire breakthrough. Not a new cement, not a new binder. A bubble that stays a bubble long enough for the cement around it to harden. And the numbers it opened up are real. Conventional foam concrete runs somewhere between 400 and 1950 kilograms per cubic meter. Working with stabilized foams, researchers have gone under 300. One published result using treated nanosilica held inside a viscous gel came in at 80. Ordinary structural concrete is about 2,400. The insulation figures moved with the weight. One group working with red mud and a foam stabilizer reported thermal conductivity under 0.09 of a watt per meter Kelvin at a density of 527. Normal concrete sits near 1.7. That is not an improvement. That is a wall that behaves like insulation, instead of a wall that needs insulation bolted to the outside of it. Now bring that down to something you can check yourself. If you follow construction, or you specify materials, or you just want to know whether a headline is worth anything, there is one habit that will serve you for the rest of this video and for years after it. Whenever somebody quotes you a record low density for a new building material, ask what the compressive strength was at that same density, not at their best density. Those two numbers together are the entire argument. The industry has worked out that the first one makes a much better headline than the second. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe. So here is the second number. At a dry density around 200 kilograms per cubic meter, published compressive strengths for ultralight foamed concrete land near 1/10 of a megapascal. At 300, closer to 2/10. Better mixes carrying fly ash or river sediment push the range between 150 and 300 up to somewhere between 1/3 of a megapascal and 1.1. Ordinary structural concrete is 30 to 40 megapascals. Take the strongest of those light figures and the weakest structural one, and you are still short by a factor of around 30. Take the honest comparison, and the gap is closer to 300. That is the exponential relationship from earlier, doing exactly what it was always going to do. Every bubble you add is volume that carries no load. Strength does not decline politely alongside weight. So put the headline next to the physics. You cannot stand a building on this. You cannot make a column from it, or a beam, or a floor slab people walk across. Nothing in the research claims otherwise. The papers reporting these densities describe the material as insulation, and they are not being modest when they do it. What it can do is everything a building needs that is not holding the building up. Interior partitions, infill panels between the bays of a structural frame, roof screed, sound separation between apartments, fire barriers, because a cement foam packed with trapped air will not burn and moves heat slowly. Emergency and post-disaster housing, because a wall panel 2 people can carry by hand changes what you can build in a place with no crane and no road into it. That is a very large market. It is simply not concrete's market, which leaves the obvious question. If this material has existed for 100 years, and everybody in the field knows exactly what it can and cannot carry, why is it suddenly everywhere? The answer is not in a laboratory. It is in a production table. Chinese cement output peaked in 2014 at just under 2.5 billion tons. By 2024, it was 1.8 billion, a fall of roughly 27% from the peak and the 4th consecutive annual decline. The first 8 months of 2025 came in another 5% lower. July of that year produced the smallest monthly volume since 2009. The capacity, meanwhile, is still standing there. Clinker utilization was around 53% in 2024. One study projects it averaging 48% for the next decade. Read that again. Roughly half the kilns in the largest cement industry in human history have nothing to do. The official response has been what you would expect. The National Development and Reform Commission capped clinker capacity. One of the major producers has publicly floated the sector consolidating from around 300 companies down to 30. Now look at ultra-light foam concrete from inside that room. It is a cement product. Same kilns, same binder, same distribution network. Same national standards body, which already publishes a testing standard for foam concrete. And it sells into wall panels, insulation, and prefabricated components, a market that grows when construction gets more industrial rather than when it simply gets bigger. And if you work in construction or materials and you have actually handled this stuff on a site, tell me in the comments what it was like to build with. See you in the next video.